Playmakers, I'm your host Lily Hennick, and once again we have an exciting show ahead. And wins all around for KU Athletics, let's go! Anyways, our cast and crew is back in action with more on KU football, along with our Rock Chalk Rewind. And the boys are back at the roundtable, along with a look at the college football upsets from this past week. Then you can catch Gus Balo with a high school rewind, and then followed by my fantasy suite and an NFL injury update. Then we're back with an update in the NASCAR world, followed by another update in the WNBA playoffs race. Stay tuned, Playmakers, because it's showtime. Here we go. To start off the show today with some big news this week with the firing of Scott Frost, Nebraska head coach, which has led to speculation of Kansas head coach Lance Leipold being considered for the newly open position in Nebraska. With more news on Kansas football, let's head to Sydney, who's live at the booth after an incredible road win from our Jayhawks. Sydney, is KU football really back?
That's right, Lily. KU football is 2-0 to start the season and currently undefeated. Is this a new era for KU football? I mean, we're still finding out. They will face Houston Cougars tomorrow at 3 p.m. They're coming off of a thrilling overtime win against West Virginia. So we'll see how tomorrow's matchup faces off, as they are big first in the Big 12 currently right now. Now, let's look at what Coach Leipold has to say about the momentum of this team and the future of the team overall.
A play at a time, a day at a time, those type of things of keep competing. And a year ago, some of those would have gotten away from us at by halftime. And personal and unit confidence on both sides of the ball. Hopefully we're better at flushing a situation and moving on to the next one and playing. And I think they've understood our approach and bought into we're going to keep coaching no matter what the score is. And they saw that maybe against Tennessee Tech, no matter what we're ahead by. And I think last year at times they saw it as well when we're behind by a lot. And I think they've understood it, embraced it more. And then we take a situation like Saturday night and keep competing, but probably more confidence and belief in one another.
KU will face off against Houston tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central. Houston is currently 1-1, coming off of a loss against Texas Tech, while KU is coming off a win against West Virginia. You can tune in tomorrow at 3 p.m. to catch the game. Now I'll go to Claire Decatur for a KU Athletics update.
Hey Playmakers, I'm Claire Decatur here with this week's Rock Chalk Rewind. Starting off with KU football, I'm happy to say we are undefeated right now. The Jayhawks won their second game against West Virginia 55-42. Quarterback Jalen Daniels threw 3 touchdown passes, including 1 in overtime, to help the team come out as champs. They play their next game tomorrow at 3 in Houston against the Cougars. Houston is currently 1-1, but we hope to make that 1-2 tomorrow. Almost undefeated like our football team, the women's volleyball teams are 9-1 so far this season. The KU women's volleyball team swept Lipscomb last night on the first day of the Jayhawk Classic. The currently ranked 23 Jayhawks kept the Bison below .200 in 2 out of the 3 sets. Some notable plays by the Jayhawks would be redshirt freshman Anaya Anetti led them with 8 kills and a service ace. Sophomore Cameron Turner was also killing it, posting a double-double with 19 assists and 10 digs. The Jayhawks will return September 16th at 6:30 against UCF for their second match of 3 in the Jayhawk Classic. Seems like all women's sports here are on fire recently. The women's soccer team, who is now 6-3, last night the team took on FAU in Florida. Despite the team's loss last night against the Owls, the Childers sisters have been quite the duo this season. Fifth-year Ryan Childers made her 3rd score of the season in the 24th minute, about 25 yards out. Her sister, sophomore middle fielder Raina Childers, assisted at the goal. Tune in this Sunday at 12 to watch the team play on South Florida at Concord Stadium. Before I kick it to commercial, I got another retirement story for you. Tennis legend Roger Federer announced that he would be retiring and should play his last match Saturday, September 25th. Tune in next Friday for a look back on his career.
National champions deserve a clean campus. Don't wait for other Jayhawks to pick up your mess. Keep the University of Kansas clean.
Hype, promotional publicity of an extravagant or contrived kind. And through 2 weeks of the college season and 1 week of the NFL season, some of these teams are getting too much. But that's not for me to decide. That's for these two, and I guess me, to decide. Fellas, welcome back to Roundtable with Reed. Let's get things started. Are these teams getting too much hype? Let's start it out with the Philadelphia Eagles. They have too much hype?
I'm going to say they have a little too much hype. I love their offense. Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown is very lethal. That's a nice little thing that we found out last week. Their division's really weak, especially with Dak being out now. I'm a little worried that their defense just gave up 5 touchdowns to the Detroit Lions. That's a little concerning. In terms of Super Bowl contenders, I don't think they're there yet. So that's why I would say I'm not buying the hype, but I do think they're very talented.
See, I am all in on the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, like you said, are as dynamic as it gets for an offensive duo in the NFL. The Cowboys lost Dak Prescott, and the NFC East was already bad. The Cowboys have Cooper Rush playing quarterback now. Come on. The Eagles are going to run away with this division at this point, I think, and I think they could make a splash in the playoffs. I'm all in on the Philadelphia Eagles.
They're still my 4th seed in the NFC, but I still like the Eagles. This is a playoff team for sure, division winner almost for sure. I'm buying in on the Eagles. Next, the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that everyone was kind of down on, and now everybody's right back on because they smacked the Arizona Cardinals in Week 1.
Yeah, absolutely. The Chiefs are very good again, regardless of what you say. I said this last week, and I will say it again. This Chiefs wide receiver by committee setup is something that is going to make them better, and it showed last week by completely dominating a Cardinals team that should be good again this year.
It certainly does.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I love what they're doing with their receiving core. You can't light a spark under Mahomes like that. I mean, all summer he's hearing about how he's not that good, Josh Allen this, Josh Allen that, and Patty's on his revenge tour, and I'm all over the Chiefs this year. They're very good.
Now, some team that I'm not all over is the New Orleans Saints. I understand that they're probably the second best team in their division, but again, that's not saying much in the NFC South. I'm not buying in on the Saints. I know they had a nice comeback win, but they were playing Atlanta. So what do you guys feel like?
I actually really like the Saints. I had them as my last wildcard team before the season started. Their offense is really fun. I like Chris Olave. Michael Thomas is so back, by the way. He is back. Jameis, we all love Jameis, right? We have no idea what's going to happen with Jameis. I like how they're using Taysom Hill now, too. Kamara's obviously great. They've got guys on defense. I mean, I want to say I'm buying the hype with the Saints. I kind of like the Eagles. I don't think they're making a Super Bowl run, but I think in a couple years this team's going to be super scary in the NFC.
I'm with Reed on this one, though. The Saints, I'm not quite there yet. The offense is fun. Kamara, Michael Thomas, Jameis Winston, going to be fun. But the fact that they had to have a huge comeback in the fourth quarter to beat the Atlanta Falcons concerns me.
Not great.
I know the NFC South isn't great, but they're not winning that division with Tom Brady still in it. No. So I'm a little out on the Saints.
We're going to find out a lot more about the Saints next week, this coming Sunday as they take on Tampa. But, fellas, let's move to the college side. The University of Kentucky, a 2-0 start, went down to the Swamp last week and beat Florida. They sit at 2-0 and number 9 in the AP poll. Thoughts? You buying into it?
Give me a large dosage of this Kentucky team.
Wildcats. Let's go.
Will Levis is one of the best quarterbacks in college football.
He is.
Like you said, they beat Florida in the Swamp last weekend. They've already got a Big 12 or SEC road win. That momentum, I think, can propel them forward. They're already ranked in the top 10. They're going to keep flying up.
Yeah, I have Will Levis as a Heisman candidate. Am I wrong for saying that?
Absolutely.
Not yet.
I mean, he's doing great. Their defense is so awesome. I love watching them play defense. They run all over the field. I'm not necessarily all in on them, buying their hype. They have a really tough schedule. They've got to go to Ole Miss and Tennessee, and then they have to play Georgia the second last game of the year. So, but in terms of talent and team, like they beat Florida pretty good. I really liked what I saw from them.
I do too. Rapid fire on these last two. USC, come on, let's get real. Play somebody good, then yes.
Like they're not going to play anybody all year except for Utah. So they're going to make a CFP run just because of that.
Yeah. And lastly,
and then they're going to get dominated by Georgia, Alabama, or
probably
out on
something like that.
We're all out. I'm in.
I'm
in.
Out.
They're so good.
They're
so good.
And honestly, their schedule's pretty easy until they have to go to Ohio State.
Agreed.
Agreed. Quarterback change midseason's a little scary, but JJ's the real deal, I think.
Kid McNamara, kick rocks.
Play a real non-conference schedule and pick a quarterback, and maybe I'll like Michigan.
Something tells me you have like a personal vendetta against
just a little
Michigan
bit.
or something.
Yeah, I do.
We put all that aside. Thank you guys for tuning in to this week's Roundtable Read. We'll see you right back next Friday.
So it's been 11 years since KU started out 2-0. How does this make you feel about KU's chances this coming season?
Oh, I'm absolutely excited. It's so fun to watch the games. It's so whether it's at the booth or whether it's on TV, I'm very, very excited and very optimistic.
I say we're gonna do great. We're doing great so far. We're gonna do great going on. The expectations are pretty low.
Okay, well, we need to change them. Yeah, we're going to make them high.
It's a good start.
I think we're looking pretty solid, especially on offense. We got some question marks on defense after that West Virginia game, but I can see us getting 4 or 5 wins this year.
I like the odds. The team looks really solid. I've watched the first 2 games, and it's the most excited I've ever been about KU football. So I think a bowl game is definitely in the realm of possibility, and I'm excited for the rest of the season.
Well, Jalen Daniels been playing pretty fantastic, and I like the offense we've been running. I mean, that was a big thing against West Virginia. They couldn't really tell where we were going with the ball. We had like a triple option kind of thing going, using lots of pre-snap motion.
What do you think KU's overall record will be by the end of the season?
If they hit 6 wins, I won't be surprised, but realistically, 4-8, maybe 5-7.
I think we will go 6-6 and make a bowl game.
It's either going to be 6-6, 5-7, or 7-5. It's going to be in that range, I think.
I think we'll go 6-7. I think we're going to a bowl game.
Things are already getting wild in the college football world. Last weekend brought us lots of upsets and surprises. My name is Carson Shea, and I will be taking a quick look at some of the biggest and wildest upsets in college football last weekend. To start, we have to head to College Station. Number 6 overall Texas A&M had a home matchup against Appalachian State on Saturday. App State kept it close throughout the game and kicked a field goal in the fourth quarter to win 17-14. This win was big enough to bring ESPN's College Game Day to Boone, North Carolina for tomorrow's game between App State and Troy. This will be fun. Just 2 spots down in the rankings brought us another big upset. Marshall stormed into Notre Dame's turf and brought down the number 8 team in the country 26-21. This was not a great look for the Fighting Irish, but a sweet win nonetheless for the Thundering Herd. We had some primetime overtime in the Baylor-BYU game on Saturday night. This game was a fun one. After battling into double overtime, BYU fans stormed the field after the Cougars defeated number 9 Baylor 26-20. The win propelled BYU up 9 spots in this week's AP poll, now sitting at number 12. How can we talk about college football upsets without mentioning the mighty Jayhawks? Kansas rolled into Morgantown Saturday evening to take on the West Virginia Mountaineers in a Big 12 battle. There was very little defense shown by either team until Kansas sealed the deal with a pick 6 in overtime to take down the Mountaineers 55-42. That was my deep dive into all of the upsets and beauty that was week 2 of college football. Now let's send it to a quick break and we'll be right back.
You may not hear it at first, but it's there. Our chant, rising. On this summit, callings converge, voices unify into a chorus that sounds out for good, for greatness. Can you hear it?
High school football is back, and with that, this means Lawrence High and Free State football has returned for another season in 2022. Both teams have had their ups and downs so far to begin their seasons, as both teams are younger than they were in 2021. However, the expectations remain the same, as both programs look to build off successful seasons and deep playoff runs from a year ago. Lawrence High started off with a close 36-32 loss to Olathe South on September 1st, despite the offense featuring several new pieces led by a new quarterback and Tyson Grammer under center for the Lions. Despite the tough defeat to open up their campaign, Lawrence High bounced back nicely with a 28-21 win over Olathe West, after a late defensive stand propelled the Lions to a Week 2 victory. After the Owls drove all the way down to the 8-yard line in the final seconds, the Lions came up with a huge defensive stop to hold off the home team, as the Lions, led by Tyro Reed's 103 yards, held on to snag win number 1 of 2022. With an emerging offense and an up-and-coming defense, Lawrence High feels their best football is ahead of them as they head into the heart of their Sunflower League schedule, starting this week with a trip to Shawnee Mission East. Game time is set for 7 p.m. on the road. As for Free State, they start off their season 0-2 with home losses to Olathe West and Olathe Northwest. In their home game of 2022, the Firebirds could not keep up with a more veteran Owls offense, falling 33-6 despite quarterback Wesley Edison tolling 142 rushing yards on the ground. So in terms of those rushing yards on the ground, again, Edison was able to keep it going and was able to make sure that he was able to keep his team out in the game, despite, again, the game not going in their results. So the Firebirds lost that game again by that final score. So Edison was able to, again, total those 142 rushing yards, but it was not enough for the Firebirds as they were able to fall in that game. In their Week 2 game against Free State, it was the Firebirds who took on Olathe Northwest, and they lost 28-14 despite a quick start on offense after scoring first in the first quarter. The Ravens, though, outscored Free State 28-7 and never trailed the rest of the way as Olathe Northwest's defense stepped up to take down the Firebirds on homecoming day. Free State had a quick turnaround this week, however, playing last night against Olathe East on the road. In last night's game against Olathe East, the Firebirds took an early 14-0 lead in the first quarter, but the Hawks responded with 21 unanswered points to take a 21-14 lead heading into the fourth quarter. After the Firebirds tied it early in the final 12 minutes, Free State had the ball at the Olathe East 13 with just seconds remaining. That set up the stage for Tay Ware, who ran it in from 13 yards out to give the Firebirds the victory of 28-21 on the road, handing them their first win of the season. The Firebirds' next game will take place on Thursday, September 22nd, as they took on Shawnee Mission Northwest on the road at 7 p.m. That closes it out for this week's high school roundup. Now over to Lily Hennick for a look at this week's Fantasy Suite.
Well, people, week 1 is over, and for me, it didn't go how I wanted to start the fantasy season, but as much as I don't want to admit it, you can't win every single game. It is possible if you aren't in an 18-man league. I'm getting screwed over here because guys on the waiver wire are people who barely made the cut for final team rosters. Still frustrated, but let's discuss those Broncos. Y'all still rocking with that Broncos country? Let's ride. Because it's looking more like Broncos country, let's go home and cry. Nathaniel Hackett, call a freaking timeout, bro. And the Cowboys, same old, this is our season, this is it. Yeah, okay, says the only team in the NFL who didn't score a touchdown in week 1. Sorry, but those comments had to be made. Anyways, we're going into week 2, so let's check out those best waiver wire pickups for potential breakout stars. Alrighty, first up I got Khalil Herbert, running back for the Chicago Bears. Now, starting running back David Montgomery did handle more carries than Herbert, 20-10, in the Bears' Week 1 win over the 49ers. I know Herbert isn't the starter, but listen to me here. When I say the film tells a different story, I mean it. However, when watching the Chicago's run game, Herbert was much more of a versatile and decisive as a downhill runner on zone schemes. Plus, Herbert has 9 carries, 45 yards rushing, and 1 touchdown, who also saw the red zone during a critical fourth quarter possession. With a Week 2 game in Green Bay, Herbert has great potential as a flex position. Next up, Corey Davis, wide receiver for the New York Jets. I know it's easy to forget about Davis with young receiver talent such as Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson in the Jets lineup. However, it was Davis who led the Jets with 77 yards receiving with 6 catches on 9 targets. The anticipation with the Jets are once again forced to lean on the pass game in Week 2 against the Browns. Davis provides a great wide receiver upside. Need a tight end? I got you. Gerald Everett for the Los Angeles Chargers. On Sunday, Everett caught 3 of 4 targets for 54 yards while picking up a touchdown. Playing one of the top NFL offenses and schemes with quarterback Justin Herbert, Everett can get loose as a second-level target, run the in-breakers and crossers, and produce after the catch on underneath throws. With a Thursday night matchup against the Chiefs, Everett is a solid streaming option who could see a bump in target volume if wide receiver Keenan Allen is still down with a hamstring injury. After Dak going out for the next couple weeks, some of you might need a replacement for him. So I suggest you look at Carson Wentz for the Washington Commanders or Matt Ryan for the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, sadly, that's all the time I have for today, but good luck in Week 2, and again, you know where to find me next week, same time, same place. Stay tuned though, because we aren't quite done with the NFL content. Namdi has some injury updates for you guys.
Week 1 of NFL football is in the books. I hate to say it, but what's football without injuries? The weekend wasn't flawless and a couple guys went down and might be out for some significant time. But what does it mean for your team's chance at a Super Bowl or for that fantasy pot at the end of the year? My name's Namdi Anyanike, and this week's notebook is your Week 2 injury report. Now, the biggest injury came after Sunday Night Football when Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys went out with a hand injury in the fourth quarter. Cowboys fans sat at the edge of their seats, and now we know Dak will miss 4 to 6 weeks and require surgery on his hand, but he will not have to go on the IR, meaning that that 4-week marker is a little realistic. The boys have the Bengals, New York Giants, Commanders, and Rams in the coming weeks, and Cooper Rush will have the task of being the man under center for America's team. But will he rise to the occasion? Chad, what do you think about that? No, I'm kidding. Now, the worst game of football ever played saw the injury of reigning Defensive Player of the Year, T.J. Watt. In this godforsaken matchup between Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, with 14 seconds left on the fourth, a blown play, T.J. Watt tosses the O-lineman and attempts to take down Burrow, causing him to come up grabbing his chest. It appears Watt has torn his pec, but he's avoiding to have surgery, missing about 6 weeks. Devin Bush and Miles Jack are really going to have to step it up, but maybe it's time for DeMarvin Leal, Steelers' 2022 third-round pick out of Texas A&M, to step into the spotlight for the weakening Steelers front seven. Now, I almost forgot to mention that this game also saw Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins go out in the second quarter with concussion concerns, and Steelers running back Najee Harris went out with a foot injury. While concerning at first, both of their respective coaches are confident for their Week 2 returns. If you're playing fantasy, though, I'd still be wary and maybe utilize your bench a little bit. Monday Night Football, we saw the return of Russ to Seattle and the reawakening of Geno Smith. But unfortunately, safety Jamal Adams was a victim to the injury bug after doing what he does best, blitzing. He blitzed Russell Westbrook, and this saw him hit the ground and leave the game on a cart, with what doctors are saying is a serious quad injury that will require surgery. Remember, the Seahawks traded Adams from the Jets for 2 firsts, a second, and Bradley McDougald. New York then turned those picks into Elijah Vera Tucker and Garrett Wilson. Adams has been facing injuries during his tenure with Seattle, and you can now add this Monday night injury to the list. The Jets are definitely taking a sigh of relief as they ended up on the positive end of this trade. Hopefully, Adams can make a full recovery by the start of next season. All right, thank you for tuning into my notebook. After the break, Chad's going to break down the NASCAR playoff picture in the race at KCK, and Kristen has your WNBA playoff 2-minute warning.
Walking alone in a college town can be dangerous, no matter the time of day. Lawrence might seem like a small town, but there is still tons of crime that happens. You never know where and or when people are planning to attack, so it is better to be safe than sorry. Being by yourself is never the answer. That's why people should always walk within a buddy system. Having at least 3 people to walk with can help with getting home safer. Going out in a bigger group is definitely the way to go, so everyone can be assured they are safe. If walking home isn't an option, calling KU Safe Ride is the next best option, or ordering an Uber with your friends. Stay safe and always keep a buddy with you.
Hi, me again. Back with some fun, interesting, ironic plays of the week, or whatever you want to call this. To keep it short and sweet, I picked out one play from this past week that stood out to our cast and crew. Strong here. On Saturday, Holy Cross took on Buffalo after trailing 21-7 late in the second quarter. The Crusaders charged back with a 21-7 run of their own, turning this game around, and then the unexpected happened, when they took the lead 31-28 in the fourth quarter. But that's not where it ends. Buffalo threw a 52-yard bomb down the field to tie the game, and Holy Cross had the intention of ending this game in their favor before the end of regulation. Now, I know it's kind of ironic to let a team named Holy Cross attempt a Hail Mary to win the game, but as you might expect, it worked. Pretty legit, right? Well, that's all I have for the play of the week, but let's head to Chad, who has an update in the NASCAR world.
We are fresh off Sunday's round of 16 playoff race at Kansas Speedway, and Bubba Wallace raced his way into victory lane. But in the 45 car, there is lots to break down from the second playoff race on the NASCAR schedule, so let's get right into it. At the beginning of the season, 2311 Racing, which is co-owned by NBA legend Michael Jordan and NASCAR superstar Denny Hamlin, started with 2 cars in their lineup, the 23 driven by Bubba Wallace and the 45 driven by Kurt Busch. In the spring Kansas race, Kurt Busch drove himself to the win, thus automatically locking himself into the playoff picture. However, during qualifying at Pocono in July, Busch suffered a serious brain injury that, despite numerous attempts to return from the 2004 Cup champion, forced him to leave his seat for the rest of the season. At that point in time, 2311 Racing decided it was best for Bubba Wallace to switch cars from the 23 to the 45, so the team could continue to compete in the Owners' Championship. NASCAR has 3 champions in a given season: the regular season points champion, the playoffs champion, and the Owners' Champion. Because of Busch's win in Kansas back in May, the 45 team is still in the hunt for an Owners' Championship, which is what prompted the change to put Wallace behind the wheel. Still with me? Good. That brings us now to Sunday's round of 16 playoff race at Kansas Speedway. Drivers and their teams were on the prowl for stage points and the checkered flag, with the goal of surviving and moving on to the next round. Bubba Wallace played spoiler, however, as a 6-year veteran stayed out of trouble all day long and found his groove in the final green flag run, holding off his team co-owner Denny Hamlin for the victory. This is Wallace's first victory this season and second career victory, building off his recent hot streak of 6 top 10s in his last 9 races. Because Wallace did not qualify for the playoffs, his win adds an extra layer of drama to next week's race at Bristol. Of the playoff drivers, Toyota and Chevrolet had the best performances. Hamlin and Bell finished 2nd and 3rd, Bowman and Byron finished 4th and 6th. However, 2 big names did not see similar success. Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick both had poor showings on Sunday. Busch finished 26th and Harvick finished dead last, 36th, after heading to the pits because of a damage from flat right front on lap 34. This puts both drivers below the cut line, 13th and 16th place respectively, before this Sunday's race in Bristol. For Harvick, this puts him in a must-win situation unless he'll be eliminated. Kyle Busch's best track historically has been Bristol, but at the Coliseum, anything can happen. It's certainly not a given, that's for sure. Look for these 2 grizzled veteran drivers to be racing with nothing to lose, and with young guns Tyler Reddick and Austin Cindric above them at the cut line. After Sunday, 4 drivers will be eliminated from the field, leaving 12 remaining in the pursuit of hoisting the Cup Series trophy. Now, let's check in with Kristen and see what she has to share about the WNBA playoffs.
Thanks, Chad. The WNBA is coming to a close as the Connecticut Suns and Las Vegas Aces fight to win it all. Both teams came into the series looking for their first franchise championship. With support from players and coaches from the NBA, the stands were packed in Vegas for their first 2 games, with stars such as Ja Morant and Kyle Lowry in attendance. I have to say, though, my favorite supporter would have to be no other than my hometown's team, Coach Popovich. He gave the Aces quite the motivational speech after their second win of the series, hoping for them to continue their momentum into Game 3. Now in Game 1, the Aces went off strong in the first quarter, scoring basket after basket, but trailed at the half when Connecticut seemed to shut down the Aces, only letting them score 9 in the second quarter. The Aces responded in what was a very close game, which they won by 3. Going into Game 2, the Suns knew they had to fight. The Aces, on the other hand, did not let the Suns gain the lead, with leading scorer A'ja Wilson finishing the game with 26 points, Chelsea Gray right behind her with 21, and Kelsey Plum with 20 to be the top scorers of the night. With the championship literally on the line for Game 3, the Suns had to do all they can to stop the Aces from sweeping them on their home court. The Suns did all that and more. The Suns seemed to completely shut down the Aces in this game, putting up 34 in the first quarter to start the game. Alyssa Thomas with the Suns became the first ever to earn a triple-double in a WNBA playoff game, with 16 points, 16 rebounds, and 11 assists to finish off the night. What a game for her. The Suns force a Game 4 and hope to force a Game 5 as the series is now 2-1, with the Aces only being 1 win away from a championship. Could it be the Aces winning it all, or will the Suns fight to force a Game 5? It all comes down to Sunday evening at 3 p.m. Now on to Soleil, who is in Houston.
What's up, Playmakers? I'm Soleil Rucker, and as you can see, we have finally made it to Houston, Texas, where the Kansas Jayhawks will take on the Houston Cougars tomorrow at 3 p.m. on ESPNU. Make sure you stay up to date with us this weekend, as we will be giving you pregame and postgame updates, of course, throughout the game. I'm going to go explore the city some more, but where are you at, Lily? I'm waiting for you.
Well, Playmakers, that's all we have for this week. But wait for me, Soleil, because I'm on my way right now. But in the meantime, be sure to check out and stay up to date this weekend, because Soleil and I are in Houston at the game. And check out our Instagram at PlaymakersKU to bring you live updates from the game. And remember, it's not about the game you played, but the plays you made. See you guys next time.